I don't think anyone would argue that Stevie Ray Vaughan was an underrated guitar player. He's a #1 influence, or at least a top 5 player for millions of guitar players around the world, myself included, and rightly so. However, I've always felt like his incredible rhythm playing skills aren't spoken of enough by other players, and as someone who's been teaching guitar online for a few years now, I'm definitely guilty of mostly focusing on the lead playing of Stevie Ray Vaughan whenever I make lessons about him. And so today, I want to make an effort to counterbalance the lead stuff with a lesson that's entirely to do with Stevie Ray Vaughan's rhythm chops and specifically some of the chord voicings that he would often use. The tone that I'm getting in today's video is courtesy of the Tone King Imperial Mark II plugin from Neural DSP, who are sponsoring today's lesson. You can download my preset and a free trial of the plugin via the links in the description box, and I'll have more to say about this plugin later on in the video. We're going to get started by looking at some common voicings that Stevie would use for blues tunes like Pride and Joy, Testify, and Mary Had a Little Lamb. These are all songs that are built on a basic 12-bar blues progression containing a 1, 4, and 5 chord. And unless you're playing a minor blues, those 3 chords, the 1, 4, and 5, would most often be played all as dominant 7th chords, chords which contain a root, major 3rd, perfect 5th, and a flat 7th. For example, the 1 chord in E would be E7, the 4 chord would be A7, and the 5 chord would be B7. Now, what I just played were bar chord voicings for dominant 7th chords, which are great to know, and they're voicings that I would consider to be absolutely essential to have in your chord vocabulary. Speaking of which, if you're interested in building up a vocabulary of useful chord voicings and want to understand how chords are constructed and how to practice and use them in your playing, you might want to check out my Bulletproof Guitar Player courses, which were designed to help experienced players break out of what I like to call the lost intermediate plateau, where you've been stuck at the same level for months, years, or even a decade plus. Find out more about how they can transform your playing by clicking the links in the description box. When playing in E, Stevie would often play dominant 7th voicings that gave him the option of including open strings. So what he would often play for the 1 chord is this E7 sharp 9 voicing, which, as you can see, allows you to incorporate the open low E string. This chord is often referred to as the Hendrix chord, and this voicing that Stevie used for it is a little bit different to the Hendrix version, but I'll get to that soon enough. For the 4 chord, he'd use this A7 voicing, which allows you to use the open A and open G strings. And for the 5 chord, he'd often play this B7 voicing, which has the open B string ringing out. Now, he'd actually play this one in a couple of different ways. One where the root note at fret 2 on the A string is the lowest note, and one where he'd place that finger at fret 2 on the low E string instead, which is an F sharp. That's the perfect 5th in a B7 chord. So let's put those voicings into practice now. Grab your guitar and play along with me as I play through a turnaround of a blues progression, which is just 4 bars long. That's going to be 1 bar of the 5 chord B7, 1 bar of the 4 chord A7, and 2 bars of the 1 chord E7 sharp 9. We're going to play through it twice, and the first time for the B7 we'll use the voicing that has the 5th in the bass, and the second time around we'll use the voicing that has the root note in the bass. You can choose to just strum each chord once or try and follow the rhythm that I play. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. By the way, paying subscribers at bulletproofguitarplayer.com have instant access to the bonus content for this lesson, which includes a few rhythm playing exercise lessons that were written to help you get comfortable with Stevie Ray Vaughan style rhythm playing. You also get Guitar Pro and PDF tab files for everything, and a backing track to practice with. Signing up costs $12 per month or $120 annually, and it gives you streamable access to both of the Bulletproof Guitar Player courses, as well as all of the bonus content in the extras section, which is updated every month, meaning your subscription consistently grows in value at no additional cost to you. Both plans come with a 14-day money-back guarantee and can be cancelled at any time, so you can stay for as long or as little as you'd like to. Now let's talk more about that Hendrix chord voicing that Stevie would often use when playing in the key of E. This is how Jimi Hendrix would play it. Hendrix would play basically all of the chord tones found in a dominant 7 sharp 9 chord, which are the root, major third, flat 7th, and sharp 9. Actually, he'd leave out the 5th, so technically not all of the chord tones, but close enough. Now, Stevie Ray Vaughan would sometimes play it like that, but what he would also do is he would often omit that major third, which is on the D string. So he would leave that out, leaving him with just the root, flat 7th, and sharp 9. And that works because the major third would get played in the bass lines anyway, so it was always sort of implied that it was still a dominant 7th sound that he was going for. Now, there are 3 ways that Stevie would play this chord. One is up here around the 7th and 8th frets, which I just showed you, where he's just playing the root, flat 7th, and sharp 9 across the A, G, and B strings. And also getting in that open low E string for an additional root note. An example of him using this voicing in a song would be Testify from the Texas Flood album. In his cover of Superstition, he would play something very similar to this, but he would also incorporate the perfect 5th of the chord, the note B, at fret 7 on the high E string like this. The third way is basically the same voicing as the first, only it's found in a different position on the fretboard. It's exactly what I showed you at the start of the video. So that has the open low E string and fret 2 on the D string, both being played as root notes. The major third would be on the G string at fret 1, but Stevie would often leave out that note, so it'd just be the flat 7th and the sharp 9 on the B and high E strings. To fret those, you would just use your pinky finger to bar that 3rd fret on both of those strings. And hopefully you can hear that if I just play the notes of that voicing from low to high, it's the exact same as this. So it's effectively the same chord voicing, just found in different areas of the fretboard. In the original recording of Mary Had a Little Lamb, it sounds like he is incorporating the major third, but in the live at El Campbell version, you'll see him playing this voicing without it. Hey, before we continue with the lesson, I just want to talk to you really quickly about the tone that I'm getting in this video, which is courtesy of today's video sponsor, Neural DSP. If you've been curious about guitar plugins but felt that everyone you've seen was marketed towards modern rock and metal players, the Tone King Imperial Mark II is exactly the type of plugin that blues players such as yourself have been waiting for. Packed with features including 2 overdrives, compression, wah, delay, reverb, cab and mic simulations, room mics, the ability to load in your own IRs, graphic EQ, and of course a faithful recreation of a 2-channel boutique tweed style tube amp. This is essentially an all-in-one guitar rig capable of producing world-class guitar tones at a fraction of the cost compared to the physical versions of all that gear, and without the headache of dealing with complaints from your neighbors when recording your mic'd up tube amp at home. Here's what my SRV tweed preset sounds like. That's a preset that I built using the rhythm channel of the amp with the overdrive 1 pedal engaged and some slapback delay and reverb in the post effects section. On the cab, I've got my favorite mic combination, a 57 and a ribbon mic, both set quite far from the center of the speaker cone. You can try this sound out for free now by downloading my preset and a trial of the plugin via the links in the description box. Thanks to Neural for sponsoring another video, and let's get back to the lesson. Now, what made Stevie's rhythm playing great wasn't just chord voicings, it was also the little riffs and licks that he'd play in between those chord voicings. And in the intro track that I put together for this lesson, which is a complete rip-off of songs like Testify and Mary Had a Little Lamb, I was trying my best to emulate that with these little riffs that I'd play leading up to the chord voicing. So I want you to listen to that intro piece again a few times, once to tempo, and then a couple more times at slower tempos. Here it is at the original tempo. So that was 120 beats per minute. We're going to slow that down to 90. And let's go even slower again, down to 70 beats per minute. So as you just saw, going up to that E7 sharp 9 chord, I played these little motifs that led up to the root note on the D string, sort of chromatically. And I also threw in the motif from Mary Had a Little Lamb a couple of times as well, this thing right here. The second time that I played that, I used it to take me to the 4 chord, the A7. And when I'm on that A7, as you just saw, I don't really play any riffs or motifs or phrases, I just vamp over that chord and then incorporate the open A string a few times. And then I use that Mary Had a Little Lamb motif to take me back to the 1 chord. Then when I'm on that 1 chord again, I bring back the chromatic motif leading up to the root of the chord on the D string. And staying on that fret as we're about to enter the turnaround, starting on the 5 chord, I play this lick that takes me from that 1 chord to the 5 chord by landing on the perfect fifth of B7, which is the note F sharp at fret 2 on the low E string, and then from there I arpeggiate the rest of the chord. So remember I said that Stevie would play this B7 in a couple of different ways. One was like this, and one was what I just played in that intro, where the fifth is the lowest note in the voicing as opposed to the root note. So that's the one I'm targeting with that little lick that leads me up to it. Moving on, the following bar of the turnaround is the 4-chord A7, again, just for 1 bar, but instead of playing just the chord voicing like I did when it appeared earlier on in the progression, I just picked the root note using the open A string, and then I played this open E minor pentatonic bass lick to bring me back to the 1 chord. So I'll play from the start of the turnaround to the end so that you can hear that. That's something that Stevie would often do when playing the 4-chord during the turnaround in particular. Rather than just strumming or vamping the chord, he would play some sort of lick to bring you back to the 1 chord. If you learned something today and you want to learn more, there's a batch of bonus content for this lesson waiting for you at bulletproofguitarplayer.com, including 3 blues rhythm exercise lessons, Guitar Pro and PDF tab files for everything, and a backing track for you to practice with. That's all accessible along with everything else on the site when you choose from a monthly or annual subscription plan. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.